Welcome to On the Vineyard, a 10-minute weekly wrap-up of the news from the Vineyard Gazette Media Group on Martha's Vineyard. I'm publisher Monica Brady-Meyerhoff. We're so glad you're here. On the Vineyard is sponsored by Martha's Vineyard Bank. The island is still socked in by snow. I know if you live off-island, a big snowfall is a major problem the day it happens, but quickly becomes a minor inconvenience. But on Martha's Vineyard, 13 inches of snow, which is what we got, can trap people for days down a dirt road or a driveway that's too long to shovel. And more snow is coming. And there's a new nonprofit that's helping businesses protect immigrants.
The more people there are that know what their rights are and know what their employees' rights are, then the more they can handle a violent situation if it comes up.
More on that story in a moment. The night before the snow fell, the MV Museum opened its new exhibit on The Crunch, which was a demolition derby held in the early 1980s.
The island can be a magical place in the off-season, and this is an exhibit about one of the magical things that happened on the island many years ago.
After emission standards became more stringent, many island cars were no longer roadworthy. So a few people, including Hugh Taylor, came up with the idea to hold a yearly demolition derby to smash up the old beaters. The Crunch was held for 4 years in Aquina on Taylor's property. Isaac Taylor spoke on behalf of his father at the gathering of many of the islanders who participated in the Crunch.
And you guys have done a great job organizing all this stuff, and there's always so much more to be said, and hopefully this brings forth more stories and more memories that we can all share with each other. A few come to mind.
Alas, the Crunch grew too big and too dangerous to continue. That's the sound of the historic press in the Vineyard Gazette offices in Edgartown printing the paper. That means it's time to go upstairs to the newsroom and check in with Bill Level, the editor-in-chief and the reporters on this week's news.
First up, we're turning to Ethan Genter, who did a big pullback deep dive into the Enabling Act of the Steamship Authority. That's what created what we now know of as the Steamship Authority. This goes back to 1960. Ethan is here to sort of give us a brief history lesson and why this is on the table now as the stakes are raised for the Steamship Authority in the wake of the Inspector General's harsh report. Ethan?
The Enabling Act is something that's come up, year after year, pretty much since the 1960s. I talked to one steam official who said, every 25 years this is a big discussion we have, but this is what creates the structure of the governance of the Steamship Authority. It mandates the service. It's what the state signed into a law in 1960 to create this quasi-public, this basically a private company that is mandated by the state to run our ferry service here. This was all done because in the 1940s, ferry service was pretty unreliable. Steamers were requisitioned by the government for the war. So the Steamship Authority was created for this purpose of mandating service to make sure islanders could get back and forth, especially in the winter.
Yeah, it sort of enables us to have local control over the ferries, correct? That's kind of, I guess, where enabling comes from. Yeah,
like you said with the Inspector General's report, they suggested looking, after the Steamship Authority was found to have wasted several $1 million on a new website that never actually went into the internet, they suggested relooking at the governance of the Steamship Authority, looking at the act, maybe even creating a special commission to see, should we do anything about this? Does anything need to be changed?
And then you talk to a ton of people for the story. It's really awesome. You should all check it out. But, there are people on both sides of it, and some did say, this comes up every time there's a bunch of issues. Changing it would really potentially take away control from the island and could open up a whole host of other issues that we don't even know about.
This was created in 1960. The world has changed a lot. The steamship has changed a lot. It's not the same service that we ran in 1960 as what we run now. So why not look at that and see if it's the same? Others have said, we've tried this before. We've gone through every permutation we can think of for this. The reason it's maintained is because it's the best we can do. But, other people look at different ferry services that are run either by their state governments, Washington State Ferry, for example, other ones that are privately run. A lot of times Steamship Authority officials will say it works for them, but it wouldn't work for us for a certain number of reasons. We run different services than a lot of the other places. the vehicles, the tourist traffic. It's very different than every other ferry line out there. Various different things that people are looking at. The makeup of the Steamship Authority board, term limits on the board. Should there be a standard for what you need to be a board member?
And for those listening, they may not even know sort of the makeup of the board, that it's 5 representatives that represent the island and also 3 mainland representatives. But the island, 2 representatives, Nantucket and the Vineyard, have a lot more weight in the vote.
Yeah, if the Vineyard and Nantucket vote together, they can never be outvoted. So this is something that has changed over time as things have evolved. There's been attempts to make every vote have at least one mainland community in support for it to pass. This isn't brand new, but there's definitely renewed calls in the wake of the Inspector General's report.
All right. Thanks so much, Ethan.
Thank you, Bill.
Turning now to Emma Kilbride, who has a story on MV4A. This is a new organization on the island that popped up in the wake of the new presidential administration's policy on immigration and, of course, the ICE arrest back in May, and, of course, the horrifying events in Minneapolis more recently. So Emma talked to the founders of this organization who are looking to raise awareness and education about Fourth Amendment rights and what businesses can do if confronted.
Thank you, Bill. So MV4A, like you said, is a new program on the island. It is a nonprofit that is seeking to help businesses on the island specifically keep their employees safe if ICE is to come to the island again. And it's about educating people on their constitutional rights under the Fourth Amendment to things like the right to remain silent, the right to avoid an unnecessary search or seizure, the right to record a federal agent if they come into the place where they work. It's an island-wide initiative that is growing, that is really just looking to keep people safe.
Yeah, and I mean, anybody who watched what was going on in Minneapolis, it certainly didn't look like anybody had any rights, but that's not the case. There are rights, and it's important for everyone to know what they are and to work within those rights.
Absolutely, Bill. And really what I've been hearing from the community leaders who are at the forefront of this organization is that there is power in knowledge, and that the more people there are that know what their rights are and know what their employees' rights are, then the more they can handle a violent situation if it comes up.
And they're also working on signage, both in Portuguese and in English. So I think that's really wonderful, not just for the organization, but if you get to see more of that in the community, you know something is happening. Some people are working hard to stop, as you said, violence or some of these situations we've seen.
Absolutely. I've heard that there are about 50 businesses around the island who are participating in MV4A. A lot of them have signs that say things like, all are welcome here, we know our Fourth Amendment rights. If you're a federal officer, you can't enter without a warrant, that sort of thing. But MV4A also hosts trainings for businesses, so there's also a lot of learning going on behind the scenes.
All right. Thanks so much, Emma.
Thank you.
You can read more on these stories and all the news for free at vineyardgazette.com. Why not go to Burger Night at State Road on Thursday? It was recently named as a semifinalist for the James Beard Award in the hospitality category. And if you like the Chowder Company, you'll want to know that it's relocating to a smaller space. As the owners have aged, they said they want to focus more on dining and less on dancing. They'll move to the former Red Cat Kitchen space on Kennebec Ave. Dipping into the archives, I want to return to The Crunch and hear from Spa Tharp, who recalls how The Crunch was a community event.
The Crunch brought people together from all of the communities on the island, and it provided a space where all of these different people from these different walks of life could come up and relax, let their guards down, and have a really good time. It was like a holiday, and not just a holiday, but with real excitement, and the festivities were huge, and people, all kinds of people could get involved. Like when Jackie rolled her car over, there was a mad dash of all kinds of people to help roll it over, you know, and so I think that all in all, it pulled together the community of the island. And it brought us together like as if we were one community, even for just a day.
Thank you to the Martha's Vineyard Museum and Endia Whitcomb for this archival audio recorded in 2025. You can hear more audio at the museum exhibit, which goes until April 12th. Our theme music is from island composer and musician Michael Hayden. If you like the show, please follow us so you won't miss an episode, and tell a friend who loves the Vineyard. Thanks to our sponsor, Martha's Vineyard Bank, committed to supporting the Martha's Vineyard and Falmouth communities through their charitable foundation and local partnerships. Martha's Vineyard Bank, your goals, our guidance, mvbank.com. I'm Monica Brady-Myrov. Thanks for joining us on The Vineyard. Talk to you next week.